Well, let's just fucking start.
I got a book review.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Let's lead with the book review.
So I'm in a constant effort of always kind of trying to keep my sword sharp. I'm constantly buying cocktail books or service books, and we've talked on a bunch of that. And this one's an older book. It's from Charlie Trotter's Restaurant, and they had a run in Chicago. It was one of the best restaurants in the United States. This is Lessons in Service, and it's basically the service philosophy behind what Charlie Trotter did at Trotter's Restaurant. And it covers everything from steps of service to how to read your guest's mind and anticipate their needs, how to go above and beyond for hospitality, and how managers can empower their servers to give the best possible service to each guest. So really great book. It's pretty short. It's a quick read. These might be out of print now, but you can still get it on Amazon for about $20. He's got some other books out there that have gotten a little bit more expensive. His book on wine services got really expensive, but I want to pick that up. But yeah, just a little read for you to check out and keep learning. Always be learning. There's always so much to learn, whether it's different wines, whether it's learning about whiskeys or scotches or tequilas. Always be learning and make yourself more valuable to your guests, to your restaurant owners, open up more opportunities for you. Yeah, that's it.
I love that. I mean, that's a solid tip for life, right?
Sure.
Like, it doesn't matter, what level of schooling you have, but like, if you get out of school and you're done learning, the world's just going to pass you by.
Well, and one thing about the restaurant industry is there's so much to learn. And that's one of the reasons I've become so passionate about it. And you look at some of the certifications I've gotten. I'm a SOM. I'm a executive whiskey steward. So I'm basically a bourbon SOM. I'm recognized by the Mexican government as a tequila expert. I'm a Scotch whiskey expert. So I'm constantly taking on these challenges and learning everything that I can. Just to better myself. But it's really interesting too, like in how all of these different things are tied into the cultures from where they're from. And I don't know, it's what keeps me going.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think that's amazing. I'm super into that as well. I like to listen to audiobooks while I run. As you know, I probably talked about that a million times. I'm like just committed to getting better through podcasts and audiobooks. And a lot of the books I listen to probably fall into the self-help or motivation or finance or business realm. Right now, I'm listening to, I might forget the name exactly, but it's Tony Robbins' brand new book called Holy Grail. It talks a lot about alternative ways of investing, buying into companies, buying into sports teams, putting money up for credit for people to borrow toward credit, like all kinds of cool things that shit we're not taught in school, and stuff that's good to know it's out there. Not everybody, is going to go buy into a sports team, but a lot of people might not know that that's actually possible at a lower level. And so it's just, learning what's out there. Doesn't mean I'm going to go do that today, but I might. You never know. There's a book I'm reading too called For the Culture, which is pretty cool. It talks about just the culture around different brands, different stories, different communities and things like that. And it talks a lot about some things that I think are helpful for us, because really what we're doing is building a community of service industry workers, hospitality folks that we want to support you guys. We want to help you guys make more money. We can't boil the ocean and change the tip structure or the pay structure. And we're not even sure that's a good idea at this point. But what we can do is help provide more tools for the everyday worker that's out there grinding to make as much money as they possibly can, and just be a positive light for those folks. And that's what we're trying to do. So keep reading, kids. It's
I actually got a great book from, I'm watching The Bear. I don't know if you guys watch The Bear, but it's probably the best television show that's ever been made about the restaurant industry. And in the second season, the sous chef is reading Coach K's book, Leading with Heart. And he was Duke University's basketball coach for years. And anybody that knows me knows I'm not a sports guy. I don't watch any professional sports or college sports. But what I do find is when I read things like this, that a lot of the teamwork and leadership values that play out on sports teams really kind of play out in the restaurant industry in the same way. And I haven't really gotten into it yet, but I know that the Bears really influential for an industry, and just the fact that they're using that as a tool to lead their kitchen, lead their team is made me pick it up. So I'm excited to read it.
Love that. Dope. That's fun. All right, there's our little book review. We gotta do that a little more often. It's kind of fun. Yeah, I'm gonna throw that in the I haven't read or listened to that one yet, so I'm gonna throw it in the rotation.
I'll hand it off to in New York. I'm using it right now I told you I'm building an outline for some steps of service kind of stuff. And this book is really helping me. But when we get to New York, I'll hand it to you, and you can read it while we're there and give it back to me whenever.
Yeah. Well, and I when I say read a book, I don't really read a book. I'm bad at that. I'll buy the audiobook and I'll listen while I'm running.
Speaking of, really quick, we're in New York City on Monday and Tuesday. Dak, I don't know if you have time to pull this out and throw it up, but if you're a New York City server or bartender and want the Sit With Me crew to come through and maybe spread a little cheese on you, let us know. Hit us up in the Instagram or the TikTok in the comments. We'd love to come see if some of you guys were out there.
Absolutely. Although I don't do dairy.
Yeah, well, I'll spread the cheese. You can spread the gravy. I don't know.
I love it. Yeah, that'll be a fun trip. So we could dive into some of these comments. I think I wouldn't mind trying to start with a couple of just random sit with me story questions. And I know we get a lot of comments, which again, I probably said this a couple times. I'm gonna keep saying it. Dakota has famously said a lot of the negative comments you get is just the tax for being online. That's what it is. And so I feel like a lot of times that gets a lot of attention. And so I had a question for you guys, and we're going to walk through this little process. It may be worth sharing. Maybe nothing comes of it. We'll see how it goes. But I wanted to ask you, who do you think our hero is in our journey here as Sit With Me? Who is our hero and what do they want?
Like hero being our ultimate user?
Yeah. I mean, however you think, like, so in my
champion.
Yeah. My theory here is that, I want to hear your answer first and then I'll chime in. But yeah, who do you think our hero is in our Sit With Me story?
So I think it is a server or bartender that has chosen to do this professionally and as a career, or have chosen to put enough into this for the time being that they want to make more money and better connections and maybe open up more opportunities for themselves. So I think it's somebody that has a more professional mindset, somebody that realizes the value of getting and maintaining regulars and keeping your seats or your bar stools or your tables full of regulars, as opposed to just kind of waiting for the host stand to deal you whatever cards you're given for the night. I think it's somebody like that. And I think it's somebody that gets a little bit of a bigger picture view and realizes kind of how all those things are connected and how this tool is a thing that can help them manage your business and make more money in the long run.
I love that. You like that one?
I do, actually. I mean, so I think a lot of it with so many people in the service industry, whether it's their main career or whether maybe they do it a few nights a week just for some extra cash. My whole point is, and I don't know who said it, but work smarter, not harder. So if you're there anyway and you're committed to your 6 or 8 hour shift or whatever it is, make the most out of it. And when you're just sitting around, kind of waiting for whatever the like you said, whatever the hostess gives you or seats you, I mean, sure, you'll do okay. But I mean, why not maximize on that time that you're there, and stress to your best customers that, hey, come see me. I don't know. For me, it's a no-brainer. It's an automatic raise within that shift. So again, just to echo what Zach said, somebody who updates their schedule regularly, so that, we know when you're going to be there and we can come see you.
I love it. Yeah. The hero is the person out there grinding to make as much money as they can possibly make. Through tips, relationships with generous people. Many of these folks are making $2.13 an hour, and we would love to help and empower them to just feel more, I guess, connected to their guests that are going to make sure that they're paid well. And I think peace of mind, showing up to work knowing that you've got some solid customers come in, that you're going to make the money that you need to make that night. The system is what it is today, and I think a lot of good servers love it, and there may be some people that don't, but the truth is if you're committed to this process, there is really good money to be made, and I think we're here to champion and help those people.
And one more thing I was going to say is like I know we've discussed this a few times, but this is not just an app, or this is not just geared for people that work in nice, high-end, super swanky joints. This can be, again, we've said this 100 times, this could be the server at, Olive Garden or, Cracker Barrel. And a lot of people out there are going to say, those restaurants are junk. Well, that might be your opinion. But every time you pass by one, 90% of the time, they're on
Can I chime in?
Yeah.
So I worked at, and I think I've talked about this before, I worked at Cracker Barrel at like 18 or 19 years old. And we were right off 65, just north of Indianapolis and near Lafayette. And, I worked hard and I worked a lot because there was a lot of volume there. But as a Cracker Barrel server, and this has been, how old am I now? This has been 25, almost 30 years ago. As a Cracker Barrel server, I was making $1,200 or $1,300 a week. And that's nothing to laugh at. Like, if you're good at what you do and you've got a little hustle, like, the money's out there to be made. And it doesn't matter if you're working in a high-end steakhouse, or if you're working in a dive bar, or if you're working in a hotel lobby bar, or if you're in an Olive Garden or a Cracker Barrel. There's regulars out there to be made. There is, ways to manage your business and maintain those regulars. And you can shine anywhere you're at if you just have the right flow of people, and you got a great personality, and bring those people in and convert them to regulars, I guess.
I love it. Yeah. So we've been able to establish that the hero of our Sit With Me story is the tipped worker that is willing to put in the work and treat this as somewhat of a sales job to get their most kind and generous customers coming back to see them. So now the next question is, I'm gonna make this a little hard on you guys. It's who or what is the villain in the story? And I think we all know the who, so we're not going to answer that right now. So don't give me the who answer. Give me a what would be the villain to our hero here, who is trying to make as much money as they can.
I would say it's people that don't understand how the restaurant, and what's that?
The who.
It's, wait.
All right, go ahead.
Give me a second. I would say it's a person that, it's not supposed to be a who. Am I misunderstanding the question?
See, you got me sounding like an owl over here. I want the what. What?
Say what again? So what is the villain?
Yeah. Now we'll get to the who, right? That's the layup. I don't want the layup.
All right. So I would say the what is the misunderstanding of how restaurants work, how servers and bartenders get paid, how restaurant margins are razor thin. And, there's an old joke that says the best way to make $1 million in the restaurant industry is to start with $2 million. So, it's you're up against all these things. You're up against labor costs. You're up against food costs. You're up against insurance. You're up against rent. You're up against all of these things. And your margins end up being razor thin. And I think that the misunderstanding of how restaurants operate and the money that restaurants tours are making in the restaurant industry is a cause to a lot of these conversations about why service industry employees are paid the way that they're paid, and why we still operate under tip culture in the United States. I think that's kind of the biggest villain. I think education is probably the key. Us getting out there and having these conversations with people from all over the United States. Maybe we can even talk to some European people, but understanding and educating people of how these things actually work and why the system is the way it is. I think our biggest villain's misunderstanding.
Love it. That's what I wanted. What do you think, E?
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also think and this is maybe on a broader sense, not just in the restaurant world, but I think we're seeing more and more evidence that we live in a society that lacks gratitude, whether it's, we were sitting at the bar the other day and waiting forever for the bartender to get to us. He was busy. We noticed another couple had been sitting there longer than we had, and he came up to us and he said, sorry, what can I get you? And I was like, hey, no big deal, but they've been waiting longer than we have. And the lady just looked at me like I had four heads, didn't even say thank you, just was like, and I know that sounds little and petty, but it pissed me off. It's kind of like when you let somebody in traffic, you're in bottleneck traffic and you wave somebody through and they just look at you and don't even acknowledge you. That shit pisses me off because do better, right? Do better. Say thank you. Do little things because there's so many. Anyway, I'm going off on okay. So my point is, the people that expect to be served, almost the entitled attitude, you're lucky I'm sitting at your table, and you're lucky I'm helping to pay your.
Too, yeah. He went to the Who too.
I did. It's the mentality. I think that's a villain. It's that mentality of entitlement and lack of gratitude.
Yeah, Rilo, I love it.
It's doubt also.
Doubt
themselves and make the money using that.
That's a big one too. I totally agree. I think there's a lot of servers that may go into work expecting just that it's all going to happen. I'm here. My job is to be here, and the restaurant's in charge of getting people in here, and the restaurant's in charge of making sure the food's good, and the restaurant's in charge of all this other stuff that goes into the atmosphere and the timing and whatever. And really, I think the best folks in the service industry do make that effort to make sure that they have a hand in a lot of that stuff. Sure. And that, they make sure that the food that goes out when they're presenting it looks the way it's supposed to look and has everything it's supposed to have. They do fight to get some extra shifts, or take that double or be the closer or whatever it is to make more money. And they do get the customers that they think are the kindest and the most generous to come back and see them more often.
Well, and a lot of people don't understand is everybody's watching that. Your management team, the person that writes your schedule, they're watching all those kind of things. And if they see you be a little bit more passionate, not treat the restaurant as an ATM where you just come in, you take your few tables, you get your cash and leave, not really care too much about your team or what's going on. That's you're building great relationships with your guests at the same time, but you should also be building a great relationship with your restaurant. And once your restaurants start seeing you perform at a little bit of a higher level or take these steps to learn a little bit more, to help out when a shift gets needed to pick up, then they're more apt to give you that closing section or give you a 4-table section or a 5-table section as opposed to a 3-table section. And, if they recognize a little hustle and see that you can handle it, they're going to trust you more going forward. And that's going to put more money in your pocket as well.
Totally. Yeah. The one thing I love what you said, Zach. I think you nailed it. That was probably the answer I'd give. One thing I would add is the number of times that I've been sitting in a restaurant and talking to a server or bartender, and they kind of look at you and you're like, man, it's just really slow today. My mind immediately clicks and thinks, message a good tipper. Reach out to somebody. And it's happened hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times over the years that we've been doing this, the last 7-8 years. And even going back further, just message somebody that take a little bit of ownership. And I keep thinking about, as a sales guy, whether I was selling legal services or copies or whatever it was, like imagine just staring at the phone and be like, man, that thing ain't ringing. Wish it'd ring. Yeah. Like, you got to do something. So, I think one of the villains is, the slow day that they don't take advantage of themselves. Now, all right, I'll give you each. You get to describe the who in one short sentence. Not a 3-minute dissertation on the who, but who's the villain in a tiny short sentence?
It's the keyboard warriors out there that probably don't eat out in restaurants, that just want to talk shit on all the positivity that we're spreading, all the generosity that we're spreading. That's the who. You're the who. If you're talking shit in the comments, you're the who. That's all I got.
Who do you think the who is? He?
Yeah. Again, I think it's.
And think about our story here. We got the hero, and who's the villain in the restaurant?
The villain in the restaurant is the high maintenance, pain in the ass customer who doesn't appreciate your service and doesn't tip you well. I mean, easy, It's not my job to pay your salary, or it's not my job to supplement your.
I feel bad about my answer.
$2.13 an hour or whatever.
You can have a redo if you want. No, it's good. The villain can be the person that is, as I've called him before, the Simon Cowell of the rest. That they're going to go in there and they're going to judge, and they're looking for reasons to not just, stick with the deal. We got a deal when we go in there. These people are tipped workers, and they make $2.13 an hour. They would love a 20% tip, give or take a few percentage points each direction. That's the deal. And so it's people that kind of try and buck the trend against the deal, I think is a good one. So that brings me to my next question then. How should I word this? My next question would be, so that makes us a guide. We are the guide in this story, the narrator maybe. So what qualifies us to be a good guide for our hero in this process? Should be a layup for you too. Mine's a little tricky.
I mean, we all eat out a lot. We're all restaurant guys. We all enjoy the acknowledgement that we get from having a relationship with a good server or bartender. Like you said, this whole thing has sprung from your career traveling as a salesperson, probably eating out 20 times a week. And my background and Elliot's background in the restaurant industry, plus the fact that we just like to go to restaurants and we like to go see servers and bartenders that we see. I think that's what gives us the qualifications. The fact that we're generous and we're empathetic, and we realize that building a relationship with a great server or bartender, when you go into those restaurants to see them, you just get a better experience as a whole. You get taken care of a little bit better. You get friendlier service. You might get the little better table than stuck back by the kitchen door or the bathroom door or something like that. So there's a lot of things that I think make us qualified for that statement, but I would just say an understanding of what the restaurant industry is our biggest qualifications.
I love that. Yeah. We're qualified to help because of that word empathy that you used. I mean, we get it. We realize that this is not an industry where everybody is kind, and a lot of people take advantage of the system. I have been a regular for many, many years at a lot of different places, so I've seen a lot of this from the other side, and I think helping servers and bartenders realize that it's okay to want and get their kindest and best tipping customers to come back and ask for them is a pretty solid mission, and that's what I'm out to do. What do you think, E? What makes you qualified to be a guide?
I pretty much know everything, and I'm not really ever wrong. So that's part of it. The other part, I think, So I think when I put myself in the server's shoes, which I've been in a million times, I try and think about it from their perspective as well as from a customer's perspective. And especially right now when things are very expensive and everybody feels like they're paying more and getting less, there's so many things that a server or bartender can do that don't involve money or upselling to make the customer experience better. You know, when you and I went over to Rise the other day, and Sadie took care of us, and she knew that we were both coffee drinkers. And so, you know, I think I ordered a mocha or something, but I asked her about it and she's like, oh, you got to taste this, or I don't know. You know, it's just those little things to go above and beyond. And then somebody that takes some time and spends a few minutes just, you know, catching up with you. I don't know. It's like when you go to your favorite hotel and the concierge asks you about your kids or, you know, about your job or whatever. It's when you go get your hair cut by your stylist or whatever, and you know it's that little 5-minute scalp massage that I'd pay $25 for. You know, it's the little things, and so you know I try and incorporate those from when I was working in the business, and you know our experience and our time doing it, and just the fact that again we see it from both the worker and from the customer perspective.
Love it. Yeah. So I'm going to jump over a few other of these kind of quickly so we can get to a couple other things today. But I think our job here is to give our hero a plan, which we can do. We have that. And it starts with downloading the Sit With Me app and then employing a lot of the tips and tricks and confidences that we talk about a lot to give servers and bartenders the knowledge and and just kind of the mindset to go out there and make as much money as they can each shift. You know, the call to action, of course, is to follow our stuff. I would love to see you guys support us on Instagram and TikTok and download the app and chime in on our comments. Tell us what you'd like to see. Tell us where you'd like to see the app go, and you know, give us suggestions and ideas. We love getting those. But it's going to lead to, obviously, two things: avoiding failure and success. So the last one of these I want to touch on is what does success look like for our heroes? In a perfect world, describe if a server or bartender downloads the app and they start to employ the strategies that we're talking about. What do you think success looks like for that individual?
Honestly, giving yourself a raise, I think is the, you know, I think is and there's so many benefits to what we're doing. And I think giving yourself a raise is the biggest one. But, you know, just setting each and every night up for success to where you know you're going to have great guests. You know, you're going to have somebody in your section that gets it, that has a friendly, warm smile, that you engage with the entire time, that you're excited to see. Like, yeah, giving yourself a raise is great, but also giving yourself great nights at work with people that you really enjoy taking care of is another big benefit of it. Those are the first two that I can think of off the top of my head.
Love it. Yeah. E, what do you think success looks like for our hero?
Enjoying what you do for a living and, you know, taking pride in your work. It's not always based about, you know, how many zeros are on your tax return at the end of the year. But I mean, obviously we're all here to make a living. So, that's my thing. If you can make a good living and enjoy what you do at the end of the day, that's success to me.
I totally agree. Yeah. I think one thing that's interesting to me, I stuck my toe in the Reddit world once. I don't think I'm going to do that again. However,
it was a bad day.
It was a bad day. You know, for all the millions of likes and positive comments and DMs that I got that day on Reddit, clobbered me. However, I think a lot of the things that I heard were just really negative toward the customers from the servers in the industry. A lot of servers, and again, it's the 10% of really negative people that there are negative servers too that just completely bitch about their customers. And my thought was, at the end of the day, like, if you had the ability to control a little bit of the people that came and sat with you, you know, why wouldn't you do that? The thing that we can help provide servers and bartenders out there is the ability to kind of curate their tables and their community that comes to sit with them. And whether that leads to more money or not is amazing. However, it will definitely lead to a better day at the office. And I think that's the most important thing that we can take away from all this. I want servers and bartenders to have a better day at the office. And by getting people that you know, like, and trust to come in and sit with you and request you, you're well on your way to that. And again, I said getting people that you know, like, and trust to come in and sit with you on a regular basis. So that's what we provide, and we help them dodge the villains, the Karens out there, or the negative people, or the people that don't want to tip. So
I like this hero's narrative, or this hero's villains narrative that we're talking about. I think going forward, that should be kind of our speak.
Yeah. And 80-20, like, my theory here is 80-20 on the heroes, villains. The villains exist, but I think if we do a good job of realizing that we're just a guide in this, and our job is to help the good people that work in the industry, the people that are really in it to make a good living, make as much money as they can in this industry, help them not only survive, but, like, thrive in this industry. I think that's a pretty cool mission, and something I know we're all stoked to do for the next 100 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Dope. I love that. So that buttons up that piece of it. I got one other question that I stumbled across, and maybe we'll be able to find this video. I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but I saw a video somewhere this week that talked about, over the course of an evening as a server bartender, there's over the course of an evening as a server bartender, there's times when you are that super server rock star, and then there's tables where you have to just be an order taker. And it was an interesting balance, and there's a lot that goes into that. And so I was curious on your guys' thought, like, if you have 15 tables for the night, and you're going to go up to each table and you're going to assess the situation. You're going to assess how busy you are. You're going to look at what's going on in the kitchen, what's going on behind the scenes, everything that you would factor in as kind of almost like the project manager or the account manager of your section, right? And there's decisions that are made, and maybe it has to do with how full your cup is at the moment. Like, there's times when you're the super server and you're providing experience, and then there's times when you just need to be an order taker, and hopefully it's mostly super server and all that kind of thing, but there's a few order takers. And I was just curious on your thoughts on that statement.
It's it's kind of all about reading your tables and seeing where they're at. So the way I introduce myself and the way that I offer cocktails to start is kind of designed for me to know exactly what kind of table this is. Are they laid back? Do they want the experience where we're chatting it up and learning about each other? Or is this a business deal or an awkward date that doesn't really want that much, like, that attentive? They want attentive service, but they don't want that interaction. So first you've got to kind of read your table. And then, as the night goes on, like, if you're running a 5-table section and you've got, say you've got a total of 15 people in your section, you can't be that interactive, like, chummy, hanging out person with every single one of those guests. So you have to know how to dial that service back a little bit, know where that energy is best spent. So I've got these two tables that seem like they're on a first time date. They kind of want to do their own thing. I've got this family table that I've taken care of every week for the last 10 years. They want me to kind of hang out. So you just got to kind of prioritize where you're going to spend those energy dollars.
I love that. Well, and as the customer that's probably sitting in that family table that you've taken care of for 10 years, like the cool thing about us is that you can come up to me and say, "Hey man, I'm slammed tonight, dude. Well, I'll get over as much as I can, but really good to see you guys. You know, flag me down if you need me."
And they tend to be more accepting
Oh, I
of
love
that.
it. Yeah. Like, totally. Oh, I get it. Go make your money, bro. I got you. No worries. And but it's, we've established that relationship, and I'm, and that actually makes somebody like me feel kind of good to know that you can come to me and be like, "Yo, I'm buried today."
It's that trust issue, the trust thing we talked about,
Totally.
Building trust with those guys.
Yeah, I love that. That's an interesting one to look at the order taker thing. And I think, super server tip number 47, if you're keeping track at home, is develop some sort of protocol in your head to assess everything that's going on in your section, in your restaurant, in the kitchen, whatever it is, and figure out when you go up to a table for the first time, where are they going to land? What kind of a table are they going to be? What kind of a guest are they going to be? Is this somebody that it makes sense that you go all in and give them the super service? Is this something that you can tell that they're a little standoffish and they may not want as much attention, or they're just cranky, and maybe you're going to be an order taker for there? And it's that's every single salesperson ever in the history of sales has to do the same exact thing. So I think that's a pretty solid tip. Love.
Word.
All right.
Can I say? I want to tell another little story here.
Do it, E.
All right. So
Story time with E.
last week I went to dinner with my aunt, and we hadn't seen each other in a couple years, so we were catching up. And about 15 feet to our left, there was a booth with a young family, mom and dad and their I believe they were two little girls, both in high chairs. Now, I don't think they were twins, but they were pretty close in age. Anyway, the reason I bring it up is because I felt so badly for the server that was taking care of them, because this was literally the table from hell. I mean, the kids were screaming and throwing shit, and the parents weren't doing a damn thing. I mean, just pretending like they couldn't even see or hear the kids. They were taking like sugar packets and dumping them out on the table. They were, banging their fork on their plate, like to the point where it's not just rude to the server, obviously, it's rude to everyone sitting around. It was very distracting to the point where, I kept letting myself be interrupted by this really shitty table. And, I know that as a parent myself, like sometimes you have limited control over what your young kids are doing in a restaurant, but that's when it becomes your job to do better and take them outside or take them to a quiet place, or maybe don't let them throw food or dump sugar packets on the table. They got up, and of course they complained too. She ate like half her meal or more and then sent it back. And I could hear all of this going down. And so, I know a lot of times on this pod, we're always, be a better server and what you can do to maximize yourself. And this poor girl was doing everything right, and she just kept tolerating it, and my hat was off to her. I said something after we left because I watched you. It took her a good 20 minutes to clean up that table with the little vacuum that doesn't make any noise, that thing. And even another server came over and was helping her. I mean, it would look like a bomb went off, and I just let her know, hey, sorry that, we've all been there. I've had those tables before, but she was a trooper, man. So she went above and beyond. She wasn't even our server either. She was in the section next to us.
Yeah, love it. Should have kicked her a little extra tip.
I did.
Boy. Oh, Lord. Here we go. All right, let's bounce into a couple of these. We'll try and wrap this up here in like maybe 15, 20. So we'll go kind of rapid fire on some of these comments. We'll start with those. I know... here's one, Zach. Let's see. This one says from Bingo Bingo 716, tipping is just old. No server can answer the question on why I need to tip more for a $50 steak versus a $10 burger.
Like, is this a question? Like, tipping's literally based on the it always has been the price of what the expense of what you're paying. So, and we can say burgers and steaks as a comparison, which they're different. You're going to pay $15 for a burger out and about, 15 to $20. But if you're at a nice place, you're going to pay $60 for the steak. But so say you're in a steakhouse like I am, and we're looking at two different steaks, and you're looking at a dry aged ribeye versus a grass fed filet, and where the expertise comes in when you have somebody that's knowledgeable and can explain to you the difference. That's somebody's expertise. We take a long time learning these things about our products, about the things in our restaurant. And that's when the real sales piece comes in. But it's always just been based on the final price of everything.
Well, and I have a question for that person then. I mean, why would you pay more for, I don't know, let's see. Why would you pay more for a G-Wagon than you would for a Toyota? I mean, it's just a collection of metal and parts and wires and rubber, things like that. It's just a car. Like, why would you pay more in a sales commission? Like, shouldn't the sales guy just make the exact same? Or, why would you pay more for a real 1 carat diamond versus a fake 1 carat diamond? Why would you pay more for, a fancy shirt? Give me a fancy brand of some sort. Lululemon. That's not a fancy brand. I wanted to go fancier. You guys think fancier?
Tom Ford.
Tom Ford. There we go.
I wear Dixon everything.
Yeah. Why would you pay more for a Tom Ford shirt than you would from something from TJ Maxx? It's just a collection of material. Like, there's an expectation that comes and that along with the quality of what you're getting. You're not getting the same meal at IHOP that you're getting at a high-end steak place, and you're not getting the same level of service and the knowledge that goes into the menu. And believe me, no knock against the folks that work at IHOP. I think they're amazing, and I love going to those places. But I think they would agree the level of service that you get at a high-end steak joint is completely different than the level of service that you get.
And can we talk about how the fact that all of those things that you just said are typically commission sales jobs. And just like what we do is essentially a commission sales job. I make more money by knowing my products and being able to sell higher end items on my menu. And whether that means you're in a bar and you're talking the difference between your $4 well vodka and selling a $9 or $10 Grey Goose. Like at the end of the year, that adds up into a lot of dollars. But you mentioned the car part, like, you know, you could have that same Toyota Camry and that same G-Wagon on the exact same car lot. And why would you think that salesperson would want to sell the G-Wagon to you instead of the Toyota Camry? Because they're going to make a shitload more money on it than the Camry probably. And it's the same in the restaurant industry to a lot of extent. Like we're commissioned salespeople, whether you like it or not. That's how I control the amount of money I make at the end of the year. Being able to upsell and sell nicer products and sell nicer wines and things on our menu makes a really huge difference in what I make. So
it's fantastic. Here's another one. I don't see the name on this one, but it says $15 an hour is plenty at places like IHOP and others. Only place it's not fine dining. Wait, did I not read that right? Let me start over. $15 an hour is plenty at places like IHOP and others. Only place it's not is fine dining. It's not a career, it's a job. I don't know. So they're talking about paying a flat wage and eliminating tips is the context. And then somebody else chimed in and said, why can't it be a career? Host to food runner to server to bartender, lead assistant. And they go on and on to describe all the other things.
I took notes on this one actually.
Oh, look at that.
So $15 an hour So let's talk about $15 an hour. $15 an hour, if you work 40 hours a week, is $600 on your paycheck. After tax, you're taking home $450. I know there's a lot of talk about raising the minimum wage and things like that to $15 an hour, but who the fuck can live on $450 a week? Like, especially if you have children, or if you have a car payment, car insurance and health insurance, like you're not really getting by with groceries and everything else and rent at $450 a week. So let's talk about that. Also, let's talk about why can't servers and bartenders be a career path? Well, there's several different career paths you can take. And one, if you look at kind of the most entry positions in a bar or restaurant, let's talk about dishwashers, let's talk about bus boys, let's talk about hosts and things like that. Literally the entry positions that it takes to get in. Well, your career path can look anywhere from like a host to a busboy or server assistant, or if you're back at house and you're a dishwasher or something like that. So you start in that position, you show the management that you've got a little bit of moxie and a little bit of passion for it. Then you can move into a server position, and servers are typically making more money in the restaurant than pretty much anybody else, just because we're tipped wages and things like that. So you've got that server position. Maybe you want to bartend, so you move into a barback position, so you can learn bartending, learn how to bartend. And bartenders typically make more money than servers in most restaurants that I've worked. And then you can look at it as you can go into management. I've never really gone into management because I don't want to work the extra hours and I don't want the extra responsibility and take a cut in pay. But if you're looking to take that route, you can go into management and then you can end up as a general manager, or you can end up as a director of operations, and that ladder just keeps gradually going up and up and up. So if that's the direction you want to go, you can most definitely go that way. Or if you want to say industry adjacent, you can get your way to barback bartender and then look at sales jobs in the liquor industry. Go be a wine rep, go be a sales rep for a liquor brand. Food on the same hand, all of these restaurants have to have food suppliers. It takes salespeople to sell you those things. And those are good industry adjacent jobs as well. So there are lots of ways to start in the restaurant and further your career, always be learning, and work your way up into any position that you want. I know lots of really educated servers and bartenders that have college degrees that keep doing it because of the flexibility and the amount of money that we make. But I also know a lot of people in the restaurant industry that started as a dishwasher and ended up the executive chef for the restaurant, or they started off as a host and now they're the general manager for that restaurant. So there's lots of ways to zigzag in and out and make this a career. And I think anybody that is saying that this isn't a viable career, I think they're kind of a dick.
I totally agree with that. I like to look at things logically too. These statements are really great. I hate when people use words like only, like in all and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So if you think about it too, when somebody is saying how much money somebody else should make, first of all, so they're putting their mouth on somebody else's money, which doesn't make any sense to me. But who's going to work for $15 an hour out there? It's probably not going to be parents, because if you got kids, you're not going to be able to really do that. So we're kind of pigeonholing service industry in this example too, outside of fine dining, which is a huge jump, right? Like from IHOP to fine dining is a massive jump. But who's left to do the work? Are they saying high school and college kids? Or is that it? And we know that there's 15.4 million workers in the service and hospitality industry. And I would be willing to bet that 2 million of those people are servers. And first of all, bartenders you got to be 21 or older. Yeah. Can't be under 21. So are there 2 million high school and college kids that want to take that as a job, that are, because you kind of got to want to do, you might want to be a barista. You might want to go work at a golf course. You might want to work at the Target. You might, who knows where you want to work. And so are there that many kids that are willing to work for $15 an hour to handle the industry, and what does that do if there's not?
So everybody wants to talk about labor shortages and how hard it is to hire people and to keep the restaurant staffed or to keep the retail places staffed. And that's part of the big problem. Like $15 an hour isn't really enough money to pay your bills. Like if you're a high school kid, you're living at home with mom and dad, you might have your cell phone payment and your car payment. So yeah, that works. But you get into college and you're responsible for maybe your housing. Maybe mom and dad didn't pay for college for you and you're putting yourself through in the restaurant industry, which is a story I've seen a million times. And I've 100 friends that have kind of taken that route. You're not going to work for $15 an hour. Like you have bills to pay, you have college to pay for, you have books to pay for, you have housing expenses to pay for. So I just don't
imagine standing in front of that person who's working 2 jobs, paying for their own college, and all of a sudden saying $15 an hour is plenty for you.
That's insane to me.
It's insane, right? So my theory is, and again, the restaurant industry and the hospitality industry is doing people a service by giving them the ability to really make an uncapped income. And uncapped, we can kind of play with that a little bit. Obviously, if you're working at an IHOP, you're not going to make money like you might make at a fine dining because the check averages aren't as high. You can make great money, but it may not be quite that. But there's people at IHOPs and dive bars and things like that will certainly do just as well as somebody at a really solid mid-tier kind of restaurant because they are solid. They're a go-getter. They're really understanding their guests and how to handle it.
Even at an IHOP or an Applebee's or an Olive Garden, like I think if you're a good server and bartender, I think you can easily probably average $30 to $40 an hour, even places like that. And I don't think people really realize that. And I don't think people really realize that's why so many people choose this path is because there's an opportunity to make more money than, going to work retail or going to work a lot of these. I mean, I know so many educated people that are working professional jobs making $22 to $25 an hour. And that's nothing against that. Like you look at the teachers in this country and you look at what they make in a year, and then you look at their expected to pay out of their own pocket to kind of support their classrooms. You look at police officers and things like that, like people with these really hard jobs that we should all really respect, and they're not making any money, like barely survivable money. And that's why you see so many people going into the service industry, because it's a great way to make money and to always be upping your potential to make more money.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point. Last one, because I think we can do this one quick and then we're going to bounce. This is from Luis Rios. Okay, have the employee pay them a living wage.
Have the employer?
He must have meant employer, I would assume.
Maybe check your shit. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm my own boss in a lot of ways at work, but it's not like that.
Pay yourself a livable wage. Yeah, there you go. Just go ahead and give yourself a $100,000 salary.
Well, but we talk about that. We talk about how sit with me and using these tools and using these tips about building relationships and building customer bases is a great way to give yourself a $10,000 raise a year. And we do talk about that a lot, but I don't think what this guy meant. And, we've talked about it 100 times of what it means for a restaurant to pay a server or bartender a livable wage. Like, if you look at a place like mine, I would assume most of us are averaging $60 an hour in tips. And if you look at that, like, Anthony can't afford to pay that at the prices we charge, and we're expensive. Like, we're $70 steaks, and there's no way that that could be affordable for a restaurant without raising the prices 40 or 50%. I mean, you're talking, we've got 30 servers on staff, a handful of bartenders, and that's just our one concept. All right, if you want the employers to pay a wage, an affordable or a living wage to servers and bartenders, you're looking at burgers going to $15 to $20. So you're looking at $30 burgers when you're going out for burgers and fries. You're looking for your average pizza cost going up to $50 for a large cheese and pepperoni pizza if you go out to a nice pizza restaurant. And that's where the restaurant industry crumbles, because that's when people stop going to restaurants because you can't afford to pay that.
Yeah. And why would anybody be like yelling and jumping up and down over somebody else making a livable wage. We're out here trying to help people make as much money as they can possibly make, as much money as they're willing to work to make. And that's the beautiful thing about the opportunity that's given in the service industry. If you want to, be aggressive and hustle more and really work as a salesperson in this industry, you can make great money. But there's so many people who are like, make it a livable wage. Like, and then what is that? Like, give me a dollar amount. And then, well, go ahead. I can see you want to chime in there.
The wheels were turning a little bit. I really didn't want to interrupt.
Well, here's one I
chime
can.
in.
The last thing I guess I'll say too is I am absolutely getting roasted on one of our videos right now over my comment that the restaurants would raise the cost of the cheeseburger 40% to cover paying their staff a wage that is reasonable.
You'd have to.
And people like the amount of people that of course ignore the statement, but like, why do you think it would go up? Because the theory that they're giving me is like, all right, if we want to add 20% to the price of everything, then make the cheeseburger 20% more expensive. But what a lot of non-business folks don't realize is if you're taking employees onto your payroll and your staff like that, you have to offer other things. And there's things like insurance for the employees. There's things like 401ks. There's, health insurance. There's a lot of other factors that go into having employees for a business that will raise. And again, we've covered this. Margins in restaurants are razor thin as it is. Like the other common thing that we, here is that the owners of the restaurant will have to buy a smaller yacht. How many owners of restaurants do you think own yachts?
I mean, zero.
I mean,
of your typical place.
1%.
Yeah, there's some guys out there that own big. Sorry about that. That own big chains or things like that. But if you look at somebody like opening a restaurant, it's a crazy fucking thing to do. Like you have to be passionate about it. You have to have attention to detail. You have to be able to look at all of your costs and know where you can shave money, where you can shave hours, to make your margins. There's so little money to be made, especially like say you've got like a sit down 5,000 square foot, that 5,000 square foot's big, like 3,000 square foot, fairly casual place. Like you have to be so tight about running your margins and running your business, to make any money at all. And, restaurant people like me that have done it for 30 years, like we're wired different. We're a little bit crazy. We're very passionate about it. We know how to make sense of this thing that doesn't really make sense. But most of the time, like if I'm consulting and, people are looking at me to kind of hold their hand and tell them to open a restaurant. Like a lot of people, I see a lot of guys get into it that just have a little bit of money, or they've gotten a little bit of money through their careers, and they want to open a restaurant because they think it's a cool thing to do for their friends, or they think it's a status thing. And if I'm working with somebody and that's the first impression I get, I'm instantly out, because it's not that. I'm sorry, I'm blowing up. Let me turn this off.
I totally get it. And I think that's the key is most people, again, they throw these owners of restaurants in yachts and like off, hanging out in the French Riviera, kicking it up while they got all these workers back. And the reality is most of them are just getting by. There's a 7 to 13% maybe profit in restaurants.
I see so many times where like these mom and pops, the ownership is they're not paying themselves so they can make sure their staffs are taken care of. Like, how hard is that to have this dream, to open this place up for it to be your dream and your passion, and then get into it and realize there's no money to be made. And then it's, in a lot of cases, it's really hard just to keep the lights on, the rent paid, and your staff paid.
And for all the keyboard warriors who are getting ready to say, well, the mom and pops shouldn't be in business, then just think again, logically think through what you're saying is every restaurant's going to be an Applebee's, an Olive Garden, the big chains, and eliminate those options of the smaller, more local, traditional restaurants and things like that. Yeah. You were just telling us about a taco joint that place doesn't survive with the guy's mom and they're making her handmade tortillas.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a great taco place that just opened in the last year called Julieta, and they're very, very passionate about what they do. Very traditional Mexican flavors. He is importing a specific kind of corn to the United States because he can't get the tortillas that he wants here. So he's importing this corn, grinding it himself, and he's got his mom in there every day making tortillas per order. So you walk up and you order 4 tacos, and his mom starts pressing out the masa for 4 tacos and grilling them too. It's so dope and it's so delicious. If you're in Indianapolis or visiting here for any reason, I totally think you should go check it out. But, a lot of these things are passion projects, and a lot of that would go away if we're not supporting these restaurants right. And, we see it all the time.
Where does he dock his yacht?
Oh, he dodges his yacht. I don't know, but
That's
maybe the White River. He's got like his fishing boat with the troller motor on the White River, and I don't know their finances at all, but I don't think, what, tacos are $5 a piece. Like, you got to sell a lot of fucking tacos to pay rent and to keep your lights on and to keep. They've got 3 or 4 people that work there all the time. Like, you got to sell a lot of tacos, man. And I don't think they sell any booze at all. And booze has a bigger margin, which is a way for bars and restaurants to make money. But they've got sodas and tacos, and that's about it. So they're hustling.
I love it. Well, listen, we got a tight schedule today, boys. We nailed it. This is a really good one.
I got one thing real quick. I wanted to talk about an educational opportunity for servers and bartenders out there. I was lucky enough back in 2015 or 2016 to get to do it. It's called Behind the Barrel, and it's an all immersive bourbon experience where you get to go camp out on the property of Wild Turkey for 3 days, and you get completely immersed into what it looks like to make bourbon from putting the corn and all the grains together and adding the yeast and fermenting it, and then to the still and to the barrel aging process. You get to spend time with the Russells, which is really cool, who make all the Wild Turkey bourbon. They typically set up skeet shooting on the property. So you're out in between the rick houses, like shooting clay pigeons and things like that, a couple of catered lunches. But it's a really great opportunity to immerse yourself into an experience that you're going to learn a lot about bourbon, a lot about Kentucky, and a lot of that history. They're taking applications right now. I believe the program takes place in April this year. The website is btbky24.splashthat.com. So get on there, fill out your application, prepare yourself for a amazing journey. It'll be one of the most memorable things of your life. Hanging out, camping out at a distillery, learning all there is to know about bourbon with bourbon royalty. If you talk to anybody in the bourbon industry, the Russells are really responsible for making bourbon what it is today.
Love that. If you're a bartender out there and you are looking to up your game exactly the way we've been talking about, check that out. And you'll grow and get better and be able to make more money. That's the idea. Good work.